Hey guys, welcome back to How the Light Gets In. So today I'm going to focus on answering a question that I get kind of a lot, which is when is it time to go to therapy? I think people ask that because they want me to tell them that they don't have to go yet, but my answer to that question is almost always no, go right now. Like, what are you doing for lunch? Go then. Because everyone should probably go, at least a little bit, just to make sure things are as good as you think they are. So, like, to be super honest, I want to talk about this, and I probably need to tell this story, but I don't really want to. So please respect my candor and my vulnerability here, because this feels terrible, and I'm sharing because I think it's important. So in 2015, I kind of set most of my life on fire and then just sort of moved and started over. There's a lot of reasons why I did that. Mainly, I was in a not great relationship and needed to end it and kind of give up on everything that had happened in my early 20s because it wasn't super great. And I'm just gonna leave it at that. So that happened in March, and then in June was when I became a little bit more aware that I was super not okay, as much as I was constantly and persistently telling myself and anyone who asked that I was super okay. So at the time, I was doing a lot of crisis work. So I was admitting people to psych hospitals on a daily basis. And I was personally getting to a point where being admitted to a psych hospital was seeming like a more and more reasonable solution to my problems, which was horrifying because I was on a first-name basis with all of the admissions nurses in the entire state. So anywhere I could have gone would have been a place that I had a professional relationship with. And the thought of having to call these admissions nurses and being like, hey, I've got a patient for you, surprise, it's me, was terrifying and anxiety-provoking and really super awful. So I would go to work every day and I would hold it together for 8 or 10 or 12 hours, however long I needed to. And then I would go home to my apartment and curl up in a tiny ball and cry until I fell asleep. And that had been going on for weeks. And things were, not surprisingly, not getting better. They were just getting worse. And it, like, the part of this story, honestly, that is the most embarrassing is how freaking long I waited to go to therapy. Like, I know better. And I should have gone the minute I had started making big changes in my life, because I know myself and I know how my brain works and I know that that never goes well for me. But I didn't, because I wanted very badly for things to be okay. And so I waited until things were so super not okay that I could barely function. And then I found my incredible therapist, who I continue to see now, and figured my shit out and got my life back together. But I think a lot of us do that. No matter how much better we know, we put it off and we keep thinking, it's fine, it's gonna be fine, we'll figure this out and it'll be fine. Now is the part in the video where I need to be super cliche and talk to you about Eat, Pray, Love. Because it's actually a really amazing book, and if you haven't read it, I highly recommend that you do. I'm pretty sure Elizabeth Gilbert is a genius, and there's a lot that you can learn from this book, particularly if you are currently or have ever struggled with mental health issues, particularly depression and anxiety. But there's this part in the book, I'm just going to read you the quote. When you're lost in the woods, it sometimes takes you a while to realize that you are lost. For the longest time, you can convince yourself that you've just wandered a few feet off the path, that you'll find your way back to the trailhead any moment now. Then night falls again and again, and you still have no idea where you are, and it's time to admit that you have bewildered yourself so far off the path that you don't even know from which direction the sun rises anymore. That's what happened to me. I got lost, but I kept telling myself that, you're not that lost, A, and B, even if you are lost, you're going to figure it out and get back on track. It's okay to be lost, and it's okay to admit to yourself that you are super lost, and it's okay to need someone's help to get unlost. It's what we're here for. It's what we delight in. So people ask all the time, I see it on Reddit, and I see it on Twitter, and I see it on Facebook. People will kind of lay out the situation and be like, do you think I should go to therapy for this? And my answer to that question is always that A, yes, probably, if you're thinking about it, go ahead. And B, to me, at least the way that I practice, the central question of therapy is, could I be living better? And if the answer to that question is yes, then you're in a super dynamite position to go see a therapist, because that's what we're wanting to help you with, is to figure out how you can live better. And that's going to encompass all different kinds of stuff. And whatever your stuff is, we can probably figure out a way for you to live better. We're going to help you get there. So, really, the bottom line of all of this is, if you're asking the question, should I go to therapy? The answer is probably yeah. Because obviously there's something going on in your life that's making you question whether or not you're doing as well as you could be. And that's okay. It's encouraged, actually. We all should be taking time periodically to think carefully about where we're at and where we've been and where we want to be, and make sure that those things all kind of line up and make sense together. So everyone kind of has these like non-concrete, far off, maybe someday goals where, I'd like to be doing this, or it would be nice if I could, or someday I'm going to. The problem with that, and the thing that I think tends to keep us from reaching those goals, is that we never look at what we're doing now and see, well, is anything I'm doing right now going to help me get to this place I keep saying I want to go to? And if the answer is no, then you should probably look at what you're doing and figure out what you can do differently. I think that's one of the things I say most often in therapy. If you want things to be different, you need to do something different. It's a pretty obvious sentiment, but I think we miss that for ourselves a lot, because we all kind of have a blind spot for ourselves. It's why therapists have therapists, because even though we generally know what's wrong, because that's the easy part, honestly, is identifying what's wrong, it's a lot harder to be critical of yourself in the way that you need to be to start adjusting your behavior and adjusting your thought patterns to get to a point where things aren't quite so wrong. So once you've decided that you want to go to therapy, I think it's really important that you take some time to make sure that you know why you're going and what you want to get out of it. Because most of the time when people come in to see me, they kind of word vomit on me and like, here's everything that's wrong and has ever been wrong. But it's just as useful for me to know what you want this to look like 6 months or a year down the road, where we have you exactly where you want to be. So don't just know why you're going, know what you want to get out of it. Because if you don't have a clear idea of where you're hoping this will lead, it's a lot harder for me to get you to this place that we haven't defined. And it's a lot harder for you to feel like you're getting your money's worth and getting your time's worth from sitting down with a therapist and talking about these things. So in the end, what it all comes down to is, if you want things in your life to be different and you need some help figuring out how to make them that way, go find a therapist. If you're not happy with the way that your life is going and you're not sure what needs to change, go see a therapist. If you can answer the question, could I be living better, with yes, then go see a therapist. How do you find one? Well, you can try and go through your insurance and call them and see who they cover in your area. But I will be the first to admit that that's not always as helpful as it should be, because I'm pretty sure insurance companies make things as complicated as possible on purpose so that you'll get frustrated and give up. Your other option is to use a website that I will link in the info for this video, psychologytoday.com. Almost every therapist in your area will have a listing on that website, and usually they will indicate it on their page whether or not they take your insurance. Call everyone who takes your insurance, who even sort of seems like they might kind of know what you're dealing with and what to do with it. You will find someone. I know that it can be really frustrating, especially because there are not enough of us, and so we get very busy, and sometimes it's hard to find someone who has openings. Just be patient and be persistent, because once you've decided that therapy is something that you want to do, no practical consideration should keep you from it. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I'm glad that you came back to see me. If you have thoughts or questions or comments or ideas or concerns, you can leave them in the comments, or you can email me or find me on Twitter. I hope that you liked our video today. If you did, please like it. If you like the other videos, then you can subscribe, because that makes me very happy. I'll see you all next time.